Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist Barbecue. Today we're going to be doing our second cook on the Old Country barbecue pits over and under smoker, and we're going to be cooking 4 pork butts hot and fast, which means we're going to be cooking them at about 350 degrees, and hopefully we'll get them all done in 7 hours. Alright, so I trimmed off some of the extra fat from these boneless pork butts, something I've never used before. All we're going to do is add some kosher salt, and after that sits on there for a minute or two, we're going to take some of Meathead's Memphis Dust, the pork rub that I really love. It's my favorite, and we're going to sprinkle that liberally on there and take these guys and put them on the cooker. Alright, so we trimmed off some of that fat. We seasoned now with just some kosher salt. And a word about why you want to trim off the fat. The fat you want gone from the top because the best tasting part of any pork butt or any brisket is the bark. And so what I want is the maximum amount of edible bark. So if I season the fat and then cut it off when I pull the pork and just toss it in the garbage, then I've wasted what could have been delicious bark. So I trim off a lot of that fat. Now I've added the kosher salt, and it started to draw water out of the pork butt. And so it's starting to kind of glisten with all the water, and that's going to help your rub stick so that when you use your rub, it'll stick on there and form a great bark. And one other thing is, since I have no salt in this rub, I can season it as much as I want, and I don't have to worry about over-salting the meat. Now this is a big piece of meat and can take a lot of salt, so you can use it pretty liberally. But I want to know that I haven't even gotten close to over-salting and keep that at a completely separate variable. And that's one thing that I preach in all the videos. Don't put any salt in your rubs. But Meathead's Memphis Dust, here we go. All right, time to put these guys in the cooker. Okay. All right, let's close it up. I'd like to say one thing about when you should put your meat on your smoker. Now, a lot of people, when they're cooking, say, a brisket, say, you need to let your meat come up to room temperature before you put it on the cooker. And they say that'll save you lots of time in the whole process. Well, that's not actually true. Because in order for the center of a brisket to come to room temperature, you'd have to let the meat sit out for several hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours, okay? And then a second thing is, the rate at which a piece of meat cooks depends on the difference between its temperature and the temperature around it. So, the time it takes to come up to room temperature, if it's just sitting out at room temperature, is going to be a whole heck of a lot longer than it would be for your brisket to come to room temperature in your smoker. It'll do that in a few minutes and already be climbing its way to your target temperature. Now, with pork, you never want to let it rest and reach room temperature because it's not safe. Beef is a safer meat in that regard. So you can eat, say, a steak that's medium rare and be totally fine. But you wouldn't want to eat a pork steak that's medium rare. So the point is, get your food on the cooker as quickly as possible. A side benefit of that is you develop a smoke ring when the meat is cold, because smoke adheres to things that are cold and moist. And when is the meat coldest and most moist? Right at the start of the whole process. As soon as you get it seasoned, you can let it rest in your fridge, right, for maybe 12, even 24 hours. But you should bring it directly from the fridge and throw it on your cooker. All right, so this is the second cook I've done on this over and under smoker. Now, if you look at this fire I've got going here, you see the wood is in flames. I've got a huge bed of charcoals that I started with there, just so the wood catches, and there's a bed of charcoals for the next piece of wood, and the next piece of wood, and the next piece of wood. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm letting it burst into complete flame so I burn a clean fire, right? And then I'm kind of running this like I would run my offset smoker, using wood logs and allowing them to catch flame, and then trying to get a lot of convection to go through the smoker. And I'm going to try that out. I'm going to find out what works best, and we'll go from there. So we've been cooking for 4 hours, and let's take a look at our pork butts here. Open this up. And so these are boneless butts. So that's why they look like they're kind of, coming apart into different pieces. That's because they've removed the bone. Now, this is the first time I've used this kind of pork butt, but I'm interested to see how it turns out, and if it's something that's worth it, or if it's something that's a waste of time and money. At this point, they've reached the stall. They're about 165 degrees, 4 hours in, and so we're going to wrap them in aluminum foil. I'll put a little bit of apple cider vinegar on them, wrap them up in foil, put them back on the cooker, and hopefully in about an hour and a half, maybe 2.5 hours at most, they'll be done. Alright, so these pork butts have reached an internal temperature of 205. It's a couple degrees hotter than I usually cook them, but we cook them more quickly, so I want to get them to a little bit higher temperature to make sure that they're nice and tender, they pull apart really easily. So, it's time to pull them off. So even though they're wrapped in foil, they're still very toasty. So I'm going to pull them off of here using a towel, and I'm going to put them in this foil pan, and then I'm going to take a couple forks, shred them apart. Okay, another one is done. We got one more still on the smoker. That's toasty. You want a chunk tag? Do you want a sneak taste?
Mine's not hot.
Pretty toasty. Here, you can have that when you're ready. Those bear claw things would be nice. Thank you for watching Mad Scientist Barbecue. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I love to read all of your comments. So comment below and I'll be reading all of them as soon as I get the chance.